Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. We'll just get started here in just a moment. Thanks for your patience this morning. Welcome back, Dan.
Thank you. I went and got my my box. Can't really see it, but
Oh yeah, got to get the coffee ready. Absolutely.
oh man, that's a cool idea. Nice. Hey, I sent a message to you, but just wondering, do you guys want to go by camera corner, or you want to go by ACP, or what? Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I kind of really, we're both, right? I mean, ACP Creative IT is kind of our parent company, right? And then
Right.
Camera Corner is the, doing business as. So yeah, customers know us by both.
Okay, because I wasn't sure if this was primarily Green Bay, so it's going to be the camera corner audience, or you're going to have people coming in, or you want to be recognized as ACP Creative IT.
Yeah, we got both customers on the call. So
okay, all right, because yeah. I think I coached Phil to just put the camera corner logo on one of the slides, so maybe we'll track down an ACP. Okay.
No worries, no worries. I'll
right.
kick things off here in just a moment and give everybody kind of the info on the naming and all of our history and all that good stuff. So
okay, well, it's a 10:30 start though, right?
We actually are I think we're gonna kick off early. We've got most of the people on the call already, so we should be good to go. Just waiting for Phil to hop back in, and then we should be set.
Sounds good.
So Mark, how many cups of coffee have you had already today?
Today, it's been a little light. I've only had 2.
The 2 is usually at least what I start with, and then I end up drinking iced coffee in the afternoon. So it's like it's almost a never-ending flow.
But I have 3 more cups sitting here.
Oh yeah, for the tasting?
Yeah.
Nice. Do you have a favorite of the ones that you sent out?
I lean toward the Kenyan, but the Malawi is something new to us. So, but it is very nice.
I think the last tasting we had, I got a dark Guatemalan and a Sumatra, and I really liked the dark Guatemalan. That was really good.
Yeah, I was trying to look back to see what they actually had, so I didn't repick them. So, but I couldn't find the actual list of what he put out there. So I figured I knew he didn't do the African, so I did that.
Oh, sure. Yep. Yeah, the African I didn't try last time, so I'm excited to try that one. All right. Got one person with their hand raised. Oh, I've got one of our, actually, it looks like Michael is on the call. Michael, I'm going to bring you off of mute.
Why?
Because you said something in the chat.
Mark, last time we had an Ethiopian yogurt chef or something like that.
Yeah, I actually did find a list now. Yeah, it was the Ethiopian yogurt chef, the dark Guatemalan, and the organic Sumatra.
Yeah, that yogurt chef was just phenomenal.
Yeah, that was very good too. Mm-hmm. All of them have been fantastic.
So have you tried any of these for today?
Looks like we've got a couple customers commenting in the chat. French Costa Rican. Rick said he liked that one. Tony said he liked the French roast Costa Rica. So I'm excited to see what everybody enjoyed most. Welcome back, Phil.
I'm back.
All right, we've got most everybody on the call, so is it okay if we get started?
Oh, sure.
All right, perfect. All right, well, thank you again, everybody, for joining. I just wanted to go through a couple quick things for the presentation. If you do have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat. We do have people moderating, so if you do have any questions, feel free to pop them in there. As you can tell, we're reading from that now. So if there's anything that you wanted to ask questions, or if you just wanted to comment what your favorite coffee is this morning, we're excited to hear from you. And if you do want to come off of mute, feel free to just ask in the chat, and I can allow you to speak to our speakers, whether that's for Phil, our speaker from Hewlett Packard Enterprise, or Mark from LaJava. So we'll have some good things coming later this call. So with that, we'll pass it over to Phil Woudenberg. Did I say that right? Woudenberg?
Good enough. Yeah.
He is our GreenLake channel sales specialist to go through GreenLake this morning. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Elise, and welcome everyone. I appreciate the opportunity that we have to take and spend a few minutes with you. Can you confirm that you can see my screen?
I can see it.
All right, there we go. Every now and then we start one of these presentations and the screen's not sharing, and then right away we get talking, and about 2 slides in, somebody goes, excuse me, you're not sharing your screen. So we will make sure that doesn't happen. So thank you. Looking forward to the event right after my conversation with you. So we'll make this as entertaining and valuable as possible. What I'm here today to talk to you about is what we call Hewlett Packard's HPE GreenLake program. It's, we call it the cloud that comes to you, and you're going to see real soon why we call it that. But, for starters, we get asked the question all the time is, well, what is GreenLake? So I got some true false questions for you. Number one, GreenLake, is it a small town and lake located 75 miles southwest of Green Bay? Right? That might be something there. Is it a new processor family from Intel? For those of you familiar with some of the naming conventions of the Intel family, or is it infrastructure as a service from HPE? Well, I know that for some of you, this was an easy one, that the first one is true. It is a small town and lake located 75 miles southwest of Green Bay. I saw online that the population is somewhere around 960 people, something like that. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. Regarding the processor family, it's just kind of funny. Intel does name their processor names after lakes. At least they have for a while, with Sky Lake, Amber Lake, Whiskey Lake, Cascade Lake, and so on and so forth. Green Lake, no, that's not one of them. So that would have been false. It's not a new processor from Intel. No, it's infrastructure as a service from Hewlett Packard Enterprise, right? So the idea here is we're offering the technology that you're familiar with, such as ProLiant servers, Nimble storage, Primera, so on and so forth, offered it in a consumption model. And this is equipment that's not in some public cloud somewhere. It's not in a little private HPE data center either. It's actually technology that's in your data center as a customer, or maybe if you have a co-location facility, it's there. So basically, that's what GreenLake really is. It's an as-a-service model for our technology. And it doesn't matter where you put it, but you get to operate it and run it as if it's yours. You pay for it, however, based on how you use it. So the next question that people typically ask about GreenLake is, well, if I'm not buying hardware, how in the world do we pay for this stuff, right? You say pay for use, it's consumption. Well, what does that mean? And it's not too complicated, but it does bear some explanation, right? We have to agree on what's called a unit of measure, right? What is it that we're going to pay for? For instance, we go buy gas, we buy it by the gallon. That's an accepted form of measure, right? And we have a price for that, so we can understand that and make our purchases accordingly. And with computers and storage, it's a little bit more complicated because we've got different types of units of measure. Typically for storage, it's going to be per gigabyte. For the compute side of things, it can be per server. It can be based on the core. It could be even based on the amount of memory that's allocated in a virtualized environment. So a lot of options there. And that's important because we can tune this unit of measure to help you as a customer have a better experience, a more efficient cost model based on your specific needs. How do we do this? I use storage because it's just a simple and easy example. 5 cents per gig per month for Nimble HF storage. That's one of the entry lines for our storage family, the Nimble HF40. And when we talk about that unit of measure in the storage capacity, it's for 1 gigabyte of space. Okay. Now we all know that we can compress and dedupe data to all kinds of different degrees, right? 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 5 to 1. Some data sets I've heard it go as high as 8 to 1. So if you think about it, if in that 1 gig of space that we charge 5 cents for, you can put 2, 3, 4, 5 gigs worth of data into that space. And as time goes by and these algorithms for compression and deduplication are improved, then as you cram more in there, your price doesn't change. It's still that same 5 cents. So you could think about, if I have a 1-to-1 ratio, it's 5 cents. If I have a 5 gig to 1 gig compression and dedupe ratio, effectively that storage is costing me 1 cent per gig of data, even though it's all compressed and sitting in 1 gig of space, right? So anyway, that's how that works. The other thing that we do with how the pricing and billing works is it's based on an average. Actually, it's based on a series of averages. We sample it every hour. And that sample data, by the way, is sent via an encrypted email. So nobody's peeking into your environment. The second thing is we average the weeks, and then that turns into a monthly number. And then at that point, an invoice is generated, okay? Some people think, wow, this GreenLake thing, it sounds like it's probably only for really big companies and it's just super expensive. And, I put down some starting positions here, servers, 3 or 4 servers is all you need. It's not that terrible expensive, right? We've made the entry point very, very reasonable, down to 30 terabytes of storage. What we're going to look at now, and one of the benefits that we're going to hit is, here's what we used to do when we acquired technology. We would go ahead and we'd figure out how much technology do we need today, and then typically we would double it. That was very common. What we do with GreenLake is we try to size it based on actual need, okay? Because it doesn't make sense to pay all that money for stuff that you're not going to use or spin up for months or potentially years. I had one customer tell me about a prior purchase that they had made for some hardware. And they said, we got a great deal on this storage environment. And he was very excited about how good of a price he got on the storage environment. And I said, well, what's your utilization on that? How much of it are you using? He came back and goes, well, we're using 40% of it. Well, if that's the case, why did you buy so much? Well, you got a good deal on it. Well, that doesn't make any sense, right, man? It just doesn't make any sense to do it that way. And today, with everybody watching every dollar, it makes even less sense to acquire technology that way. So with GreenLake, we try to focus on what the need is today, but we recognize that you do need to have a little bit of extra space, right, to grow. So we put what's called a buffer or variable capacity out there to handle that. We recommend, by the way, that we take and use some of the many number of tools. I listed a few of them down here, but there's many tools that Camera Corner can utilize to help you see exactly what your capacity requirements really are, right? And that's always a good practice anyway, but just I stress that it's important to do it that way. So if you have 3 servers and you have only 25 terabytes of data, no problem. Through GreenLake, what we would do is we would deliver 4 servers, you'd pay for 3 of them, and you'd have 1 extra one on site to be used in case you need it, okay? That's the benefit of GreenLake. So we have that extra capacity, and I just didn't have to pay all that money out for it. Same thing with storage. When I talk about 30 terabytes of storage, we deliver 30 terabytes. That's one of our smallest frames for a hybrid flash environment. And the reservation or the minimum that you have to pay for is 24 terabytes, right? And then anything above that, you have 6 extra terabytes that you would pay for as you need it. And again, it's based on that same rate. We don't charge you any extra for going into this buffer. It's the same price. It's the same rate, the same 5 cents. Okay. And by the way, this can go big. Think about it. If it was 30 servers instead of 3, the buffer would be 10 instead of just 1, right? And the total installed would be 40. So now think about that, 10 extra servers in your data center that you're not paying for until you have to start to use them, okay? Same thing with storage, 240 terabytes and a 60 terabyte buffer, right? And 300 terabytes sitting on the floor for you to use. So some really dynamic things that can happen. So what we're trying to solve for here is over provisioning. That's number one. Another thing that helps customers with is it gives them more free cash flow, right? Because money isn't being spent on a stack of hardware that may not even be used, right? So it helps with the cash flow through the consumption model. I'd stress the fact too that this is not something that you own. Again, we're not buying hardware. We're not selling hardware. We're delivering hardware that you get to use, and you're just paying for the use of it. So you don't have to depreciate it. You don't have to track it like you would a typical asset in an organization. So it's a very different model. In a lot of cases, there's no sales tax because, again, there's no sale taking place, right? It's just use. That extra buffer, like if you had 30 servers you're using, and let's just say 10 of them are extra, those extra 10 could be used for any new project. Now, I don't have to go out and buy 3 or 4 more servers. They're already there. Okay, that's one of the values there. The other thing is this predictable pricing model with the service agreement that we have with GreenLake. And let's say you're choosing to look at a storage solution and you've got this 5-cent starting price. What's going to happen is as that capacity grows over time, that price per gig is going to drop. It's going to go down maybe to 4 cents and maybe down to 3 cents based on how that enterprise, that environment, how that grows. So think about it. When we did the old model and we bought the whole stack up front, one of the biggest reasons we did that was to leverage a discount because of the size of the deal. You get that same benefit through GreenLake through our reduced price per unit. So in a sense, you're not losing that benefit, and it's a lot more efficient to have it actually happen as you actually grow. It also is beneficial in the sense that if a customer, a department comes to you as an IT manager and says, hey, I need 50 terabytes of data, space for 50 terabytes of data in a month. How much is that going to cost me? Very easy to go to the table, which has these numbers and the price per gig, and you just do the simple math and say, well, that'll cost you, an extra $2,000 or whatever the number is. Okay, so customers are telling us they love that. And again, it's a services agreement. So this is all based on services. In fact, one of the other things that the program includes is a tool called GreenLake Central to help you see what these services are. It's called the GreenLake Central with the GreenLake's Analytics portal built into it. So we're watching the hardware consumption. We can add on all kinds of services. You can have the partner provide all kinds of services. So Camera Corner can be involved and provide services that they offer. And I can also even track my spend in the public cloud. A lot of customers have public cloud. So you may have an AWS environment that you want to track as well. And so now I can see what I'm spending in that public cloud. And I can also see what I'm spending in this GreenLake environment that's in my data center. And now I can start to make a good decision based on cost as to where I should put that certain workload, okay? And I might find it's cheaper to go on-prem, right? Other workloads work just fine in the public cloud and maybe should stay there. So this just gives you the ability to see all that in one shot. I'm gonna kind of blast through this a little bit because it's a lot of words and I don't like those kind of slides. The point is, because it's a services agreement, we have a lot of physical resources aligned to every customer, right? They all have specific tasks regarding capacity, performance, upgrades, all that kind of stuff. That's all part of this program. These are things that a lot of customers, if they're just acquiring hardware, These are tasks that a lot of customers have to do on their own. And in this GreenLake model, we come alongside and do that with you. So lots of value there. And some customers, we have to go pretty deep and explain just specifically how that can help them. I'm going to take a minute and go through this GreenLake Central thing just because it's kind of interesting. It is what's different for us. Our competitors don't have this, right? We are the only company that has this type of portal. And the two tiles you see on the left are the two that come with every single GreenLake customer's deal, okay? Everybody gets this. Capacity management and cost controls to optimize spend both in your own data center and in a public data center or a public cloud like AWS Azure. The three on the right are optional services that GreenLake Central also has available, but you can elect whether or not you want to use them or not. So for some customers, we don't have a real high compliance requirement, so no big deal. Why should you pay for that, right? But if you did, this will be a great tool. It's a fantastic program. So when I talk about billing and usage, we'll just hit this is what everybody gets. This is what the monthly activity bill would look like in the GreenLake model. Now, for those of you who have an AWS agreement, I think you've probably seen that. I think it's 58 pages for their invoice, and it's very complicated and lots of layers and things like that. We're a little simpler than that. This is a pretty large environment, just a bunch of blades and some storage. It looks like it's old 3-par. But it tells me how much I've consumed and what that is. If I want to dig a little deeper, I can actually see that I have a price for the blades here, and I'm going to use my pointer on my mouse to show that we have 133 blades in the data center. Now, again, this could be 10 servers per alliance, right? So, but anyway, that's how much we have in the data center floor, and I'm using 90 of them, okay? And you'll notice here that we've got these, remember I talked about that declining price per unit model. So in this case, the price is per blade, okay? That's how this one is structured. And I'm between 50 and 100 blades. So I have 95 or 90. My minimum was 95. So I'm actually overpaying a couple on those. But I'm being billed at this $15 rate. I'm not being billed at the 20, which might have been my starting point. But I grew, and so now all of the blades are repriced at the lower number. And that goes true when we get past the 90, we get up to 100, then that number is going to drop even more to 12, so that everybody in the organization who's using this technology gets the benefit of a lower price, okay? So that, again, very different part of our model. The capacity planning thing, this is just one of the sample screens. And again, I'll remind you that typically up to the orange line is what your utilization is. And then this teal colored line is how much is actually on the floor. So you typically are not paying for this difference, right? Usually we try to tune this so that it's roughly 20%. So that part's just sitting there ready for you to use. And what happened here is you see how we had this growth. And in this case, what would happen is one of those resources we looked at on the earlier slide would have contacted the customer if the customer didn't already know it, because they have this portal. But it would say, hey, we've got some growth. What's going on? Is this like permanent or temporary? In this case, it was permanent. So it was decided, and the customer gets the final say so. The customer always chooses when it's appropriate to add more capacity on the floor. Customer said, yeah, I'm going to need it because this is my new normal. And so new capacity was installed here, and now off we go. Now, if I want to trend that out using some different modeling tools, I can see, well, what does that look like, right? So that's a big benefit. A lot of IT managers have said, this is really one of the simplest and easiest models for them to use. I'm going to go through this real quick. I took this screenshot back in April 7. This shows budgets. Cost of technology up against a budget number. And you can see that at the bottom, I'm in the yellow down here because I'm over my budget if I keep doing what I'm doing. And so this, hopefully at the beginning of the month, or April 7th, in the month of April, I have time to do something about it, right? If I'm an IT manager and I got a budget I'm trying to live up with, I might be able to go to these compute guys and say, hey, what are you guys doing? And is there any way we can reduce this cost? Well, I took another snip of that for April 22 is when I took this last snip, and look at those pesky compute guys just kept right on going. They're in the red. They're over their budget for the month, which means that everybody's over a little bit. And so at this point, as an IT leader, I'd probably have to go to my accounting department and say, hey guys, you know, the budget we set for our usage for last month, it's probably going to come out a little higher, and we had all these new projects come in, so maybe we got to increase our budget, right? So anyway, this just level of granularity to finance and what technology costs is just phenomenal. And our customers are telling us, we've got one fellow that's in our website, hpe.com. He's a CIO. He said that, you know, as a typical CIO, he's always tried to get an extra couple of percentage points off on an acquisition side, but he went with GreenLake. He said, I got a 42% operational efficiency. And that ends up being real dollars too. Okay. And it's because he had access to this kind of data and could do things about it before the final bill hit. So I only have a couple minutes left. I'm just going to highlight the fact that GreenLake includes many of the applications from our valued partners, right? So we have this full community and by the way, there's dozens more. I just can't fit them all on the screen because you can't read them all, but VMware is a big one. So when we do a virtualized environment, we can provide a price per unit that includes not just the HPE hardware stack to support that, but also the VMware licenses. So for some of the larger companies that have these really big, complicated VMware license agreements that they got to keep track of, we had one customer tell us, you just saved us a fortune just in managing our VMware contract, because now I don't have to do that at all. It's you guys, and we don't care. So good stuff. And we couldn't do it with all of these partners, and especially working with our partners like Camera Corner to get to our customers to help explain what this program is. It's the cloud that comes to you from the edge all the way out to that public cloud. We've got a solution that gives customers the ability to have a self-service environment, right? They get a lot of control over that. It's really based on pay-per-use. They can scale it up and down quite a bit, and we come along and manage it with you, right? With Camera Corner. It's a joint services agreement. So with that, maybe I should have taken some decaf this morning. I'm just saying. Anyway, I had 20 minutes. I tried to keep to it. Thank you, everyone. And I would like to turn it back over to Elise to introduce our next speaker. Yes.
Phil, you did have one question come in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was asking if you could explain the integration between GreenLake and Azure.
Sure. That really goes back to that model that I showed a bunch of slides ago, where it's through that portal. Okay, so you get to see what you've got in your Azure cloud as well as what you have locally, and the ability to compare and contrast what that particular workload is costing. Okay, so again, this is a billing model. If it's a question about the technology, well, nothing's different there. All the things that you would normally do with our ProLiant server technology in an on-prem model, in conjunction with a technology that you might have in a hyperscaler environment like Microsoft Azure, none of that changes, right? There's no difference to any of that. This tool just gives you the ability to see it together, and also to pay for them both kind of the same way. Okay. Hope that answers the question. If it doesn't, we can go offline and go a little deeper.
Yeah, I've got the, excuse me, the person that had asked that question. So we can definitely follow up afterwards.
Okay.
Thank you for the question, DJ. We appreciate it. Anybody else have any questions for Phil? If you want to raise your hand, or if you wanted to type it in the chat. Phil, you're going to be hanging out with us for the coffee tasting too, right?
Oh, you bet.
Okay, perfect. So certainly if you guys do have questions, I apologize, I have a frog in my throat this morning. If you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand. We can certainly ask Phil any questions as a follow-up too. So thank you so much, Phil. That was super enlightening. I loved seeing those screenshots, you know, really the power in those numbers, right? that, like you said, that translates into real dollars. So that was pretty cool. All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Mark Simrel, who is the owner of LaJava Coffee House, which is a local coffee house to Green Bay, Wisconsin. So with that, Mark, would you like me to share that video to start things off?
Yeah, why don't we start off with the video?
Okay, perfect. Let me go ahead and grab that here. And then if somebody can just confirm that you guys can see my screen here.
Yep.
All right, perfect.
Is a small batch specialty coffee roaster established in 2002, located in Green Bay and owned and operated by husband and wife team Mark and Catherine Semrau. We provide our customers with the highest quality coffees from regions throughout the world, freshly roasted in our stores. Caring deeply for our community, we seek to make a difference through numerous partnerships with local nonprofits. We offer several unique coffees, including organic and fair trade certified, as well as a large selection of flavored coffees and bulk teas. We are passionate about sourcing, roasting, and distributing these high-quality coffees to our community, while being able to help provide social and economic support to the coffee farmers and their communities. When you buy quality LaJava coffee and teas, you're not only receiving a great product, you are partnering with us to invest in our community, protect the environment, and ensure that coffee farmers and their workers are afforded the capital to continually improve the quality of their lives and crops. So how do we roast our great tasting coffee? It starts with green coffee beans from any of these burlap sacks from around the world. But here's where the magic begins. Back in '02, this was our roaster, the San Franciscan made in Utah. After our expansion in 2018, we now use the more modern Probat 112 made in Germany. The roaster is a cylindrical cast iron drum that's basically an oven. The drum turns so the beans are in constant motion, so they roast evenly. To start roasting, the now green coffee beans are put in this hold hopper till it's time to roast. Pulling this slide dumps the beans into the roaster. With a few exceptions, the beans will now roast till they hit 350 degrees. Then the temperature is lower. Now, a few things happen as the beans roast. They start to turn brown. At about 375 degrees, we hit what we call first crack. You can hear the beans start to make a cracking sound. This indicates that the moisture in the bean is starting to escape. The moisture causes steam, and pressure then cracks the beans open. Later in the roast is the second crack, where the oil starts to appear on the beans. Depending on the kind of coffee we're roasting, the final temperature of the beans is normally about 418 degrees or so for a regular roast, and anywhere between 427 and 435 for velvet, French, and dark roasts. The bean temp isn't the final determination of when the roast is done. More importantly is the color of the bean. Now, beans have many different textures, so it's the roaster's knowledge of the specific bean's color and the temperature that determines when they are roasted properly. By the way, the average roast time is approximately 40 seconds a pound, starting with about 10 pounds an hour. And the roasting process causes a loss of about 15% of the bean's weight, since all the moisture evaporates in the roasting process. When the beans are properly roasted, they need to be quickly cooled, so into the cooling tray they go. Paddles continually move the beans as air is sucked down through them. It usually takes about 3 to 6 minutes, depending upon how many pounds we roasted. After cooling, we dump the beans into the D-rocker. It's an upside-down vacuum that sucks the beans up into the hopper. Now, pretty much any foreign matter heavier than an average single bean stays at the bottom in the catch tray. Lots of items have been collected from the catch tray besides the usual pebbles and small stones. Check these out. The D-rocker is an absolute necessity before we sell any beans. Imagine any of these things getting dumped along with the beans into your home grinder. Finally, after de-rocking, the coffee beans are put in these tubs for storage till their final destination. LaJava is Green Bay's own local coffee roaster. Come see what makes us special. Handcrafted lattes, fresh coffee from around the world, a huge variety of specialty teas, and unique wholesale partnerships.
All right. Perfect. I think we're all set for you to walk us through all the beautiful coffee that we got, Mark.
Sounds good. Well, glad everybody could join us this morning. It was very enlightening watching the storage part of it. But anyway, as we move on to the actual coffees, basically this morning, or actually last week when we had picked the coffees and had them sent out, I had actually chosen 2 of our pea berry coffees that are more unique to us, that typically on an ongoing basis we don't have in stock, but they were a special buy that we brought in, so I thought I would use those. And kind of the difference between a pea berry and our normal coffee bean is that in a pea berry, it's a single bean inside of the cherry versus the normal coffee beans, it actually has two halves. And during the fertilization of the coffee, the flower, only one of the beans gets fertilized, and that's what creates the pea berry. So there's not one that will flatten against each other. So that's when we get a single bean in a cherry versus the two beans. So what we had picked this morning was two Eastern African coffees, one from Kenya, and then one a little bit farther south from Malawi. There again, like I said, both of them are the pea berry style coffee. Then the third one we picked was a Central American from Costa Rica. It comes from a small farm in the Navarro region, and it's a farm that is run by a father-daughter duo, and it's the Hacienda Monumenta, and it's run by the father, which is Ricardo, and his daughter Vivian. And it's a small, unique farm in that central region of Costa Rica, and it's probably not that small. They're a fairly large producer. So then at that point, as far as, I'm not sure if anyone has tried any of the coffees, but we can start with the Kenyan. Basically, it's a very bright coffee. It's a little bit citric and it has a very clean finish. It has different layers of sweetness in it. And as you actually taste it, you can taste a little bit of a maple in there, some of the cane juices, a little bit of grape and apricot, and it's a very more of like a little bit of a sweeter coffee with the fruit tones in it, and it makes just a very well-rounded coffee. From there, we went to the Malawi. There again, it's another one from Eastern Africa, and this one again is a very bold, smooth coffee. It's very full-bodied, and as far as the flavoring in it, there again, as you taste it, you can actually taste a little bit of pear, a little peach, and then again a little bit of apricot on the finish. And there again, it's a little bit of a sweeter coffee than your normal Central and South American coffees, but it is a very pleasant coffee. And it's just very, I think, a very unique flavor. It's very enjoyable to drink, especially in the mornings or early mornings. No, I find it very enjoyable. From there, then we went to one of our Central Americans from Costa Rica. This one is a little bit of a darker roasted coffee, which gives it a little bit of a bolder flavor and taste. And this one, as far as you drink it, you still have the hints of the citrus and honey, a little bit of like caramel and chocolate aromas in it. But it's a little bit of a higher acidity coffee. It again is a full bodied, it's well balanced, and it's a very smooth tasting coffee again, which is very enjoyable with a lot of desserts in a dinner type coffee. No, it is, like I said, very enjoyable. So I'm not sure if anybody has tried them or have questions on any of the different coffees that we have.
If anybody wants to, feel free to raise your hand or put in the chat, and we can either take you off mute if you'd like to talk, or you can type it in the chat. It looks like Rick said that they did brew the Kenyan coffee. Both him and his wife enjoyed it. Very smooth taste. Tammy said, love LaJava and appreciate the treats. Glad you're part of our community.
Thank
I
you.
second that. I definitely frequent LaJava, probably more than my husband likes, but yeah, James said, loved the Kenya peaberry.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I've never heard about the peaberry before.
Yeah, typically we normally do carry the Kenyan coffee on an ongoing basis. It was just this particular time where normally we have the AA Kenyan, and this one was just available in the peaberry form. And usually the peaberry gives it a little bit of a richer flavor. So that's what we brought in for our Kenyan this time. And it is very enjoyable. The Kenyan is one of my go-to coffees. It's a very well-rounded light coffee, and we really enjoy drinking it.
Yeah, I liked that one a lot too. I definitely dipped into that quite a bit.
Good.
Very cool.
I'm not sure if there's anything else you'd like me to share. I mean, basically, as in the video, we've been around since 2002. We are a family-owned. It's my wife and myself. And over the past few years, we've grown to several locations. Year and a half ago, we actually did end up leaving one location in Swamico, and but now we just have 3 locations, each one with drive-throughs, and then one which on our Cardinal Lane, which is a full cafe, where we also have the food, morning sandwiches, and for lunch.
Oh, I didn't know you guys had lunch at that location. That's good
Yes.
to know.
Yeah, that's the only one. It's our Cardinal location, which we actually serve breakfast and lunch.
Awesome. So we do, Mark, we do have some people on the call from our Chicagoland area. Do you
Okay.
guys ship coffees all over, or how does that work?
Yes, we do have a website that you can order off of. And yeah, basically we ship throughout the US.
Awesome. That's good to know too.
We do quite a bit of shipping, and also different, as you've seen in the fundraisers, where basically they can order online and they're drop shipped to them also.
Sure. So I'm going to pick on you, Brittany. Did you get to taste any of the coffee? Did you get to brew any of it for this morning?
Elise, I'm so sad to say, but my shipment hasn't arrived yet.
Oh no!
I know.
Send it over to you.
It will soon. I know the mail is all messed up. I'm waiting for my updated registration that was supposed to be sent like a month ago for my car. So no, the mail is all messed up. Unfortunately, I haven't yet, but I really enjoyed it after our January session. So I'm looking forward to getting my shipment.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I always like the chocolate covered espresso beans too, just for that like little extra zip. It looks like Greg said, I'm not a coffee connoisseur, but this coffee is amazing as compared to the Folgers from the coffee service at our office. Greg, I can definitely understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not too often we're compared against Folgers, but
you would hope that you would win out in that contest.
yeah, I would hope so, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the roasting process is really interesting to me too, because I didn't realize like the first crack, the second crack, and that like a darker roast coffee has less caffeine in some cases, like those are all things that I just had no idea about in the roasting process.
Yeah, because basically the longer you roast the coffee, basically it's the mass that you're burning away. So part of that mass also contains the caffeine in it. So that's why your darkest roasted coffees are going to be the least acidic coffees and also have the least amount of caffeine in them.
Interesting. I did not know that, because I always figured like dark roast had more like caffeine in it or was more acidic or whatever. So it's like totally the opposite of what I expected.
Yes.
Is that a common thing that you come up against, that people think that dark means more caffeine and light means less?
Yep. And there's a lot of people that have heard that, or that's what they had believed.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, it is totally opposite.
Very cool. Well, if anybody has any other questions, feel free again to put them in the chat. If you do have any questions for Phil, Phil is still here, just quietly behind the scenes with us. So if you do have any questions about GreenLake, or if you had any questions for Mark from LaJava, feel free to put those in the chat. Otherwise, we'll give you some time back this morning. Thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate your time and being a client of ACP and Camera Corner. We're excited to have you with us and appreciate your time. Tammy says, thank you. James, thank you. Very informative. Tony, thanks. Rick, thanks. Usually if we get a lot of thanks, that means it was good. So I think we had a positive outcome from the event. So Mark, did you end up using one of the Yeti mugs? Do you tout that quite frequently to keep your coffee hot, or do you drink your coffee pretty quickly?
Usually I do have it in a thermal mug, but yeah, usually it goes through pretty quick.
Yeah.
Right now I'm usually on my 4th cup, so it's just,
sure.
this morning I kind of held back a little bit because I have the actual 3 cups here that we brewed for this morning.
Oh, sure. So you said the Kenyan is your typical one that you go to?
Yeah, I like the Kenyan, and the other one that I go to a lot is the one that was they had last time was the Ethiopian Yirgacheffe.
Okay, yep.
But then again, the Costa Rican from Miramonte, it's they're very dear friends of us. We've been to their farms. We meet up with Vivian quite often. So they do hold a special part with us too.
Very cool. So how often do you, well, obviously pre-COVID, right?
Pre-COVID.
How often did you travel to some of those farms for the beans?
We like to try to get to somewhere at least every year or every other year.
That's awesome.
But sometimes too, depending on where you're traveling, it's some of these places are not the easiest to get to.
Sure. Yeah, I can imagine, because some of them can be obviously pretty remote locations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it
But
like
you're pretty safe in,
go ahead.
I'm gonna say you're pretty safe in Costa Rica though.
Yeah.
No. Colombian and some other places, not so much.
Right. That definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think we got all the questions. So thanks again, Mark. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.
This morning. And Dan, Phil, Brittany, thanks for hosting this for us. We appreciate your time this morning as well and your insights on GreenLake, and I'm excited to talk to you guys again soon.
Yeah,
right, thank you.
Brittany, your coffee shows up soon.
It will.
It'll be
Yeah,
good.
it went out UPS on Monday, so I'm surprised you haven't seen it yet.
I'm
You're
in
down in
Chicago, so
Chicago.
maybe that, yeah.
Yeah.
Those
I'll
darn
let you guys know when I get it. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
So,
Oh, too funny. All right. Well, you guys have a great
Okay.
rest of your morning.
thanks,
Okay.
guys.
You too,
Thanks very
Elise.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Brittany. Thanks, Phil. And thanks, Elise. Nice meeting you, Mark.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye, guys.
Bye.